I found out why everyone avoided my new neighbor, and it wasn't what I expected. The first warning came from the HOA president, who leaned in too close and told me, just don't engage, like she was giving advice about a dangerous animal instead of the man who'd moved in next door. I laughed, because that's what you do when someone says something vague and dramatic without explaining it. She didn't smile back. I'd only been in the neighborhood for 3 weeks, long enough to learn which dogs barked at nothing and which houses left their porch lights on all night. It was quiet in the specific way people advertise when they want quiet to mean controlled. So when the moving truck showed up next door, I noticed. He moved in alone. No family, no friends hanging around. No small talk with the neighbors, who usually hover during a move like it's a block party. Just him, unloading boxes methodically, always wearing the same grey sweatshirt, always nodding politely when someone waved. That should have been the end of it, but people stopped waving. The woman across the street crossed over to the other sidewalk when she saw him. The couple 2 houses down suddenly walked their dog in the opposite direction. And then came the HOA president's comment, followed by a few others that all sounded like they were rehearsed. He keeps to himself. Nothing technically wrong. Just strange. I didn't push. New neighborhoods have their own social weather, and I assumed I was just missing context. The first genuinely unsettling thing happened a week later. I came home late from work and found a package on my porch. I hadn't ordered anything. No name, no label, just a small, brown box, neatly centered on the doormat. I brought it inside and opened it, expecting a wrong delivery. Inside was a printed photo of my front door. Not artistic, not angled, just a straightforward shot taken from the sidewalk during the day. On the back, in careful handwriting, was my address. No message, no signature. I stood there longer than I should have, telling myself there had to be a rational explanation. Maybe a real estate thing. Maybe a mistake. I tossed it in a drawer and didn't tell anyone. The next morning, I saw him outside watering his lawn. He looked up when I stepped out, smiled, and said, "Your porch gets good light in the afternoon." I froze. He said it casually, observational, like a comment about the weather. I nodded and said something equally meaningless, then went to my car with my heart doing something unpleasant. After that, the pattern emerged. Little comments, always accurate, always unnecessary. You usually leave around 7:40. The blue car visits on Thursdays. You changed your lock. He never phrased them as accusations, just statements. I started paying attention to how other neighbors reacted to him. They weren't scared exactly. They were careful. They didn't confront him. They didn't gossip loudly. They just adjusted their routines, subtly, collectively. One evening, I asked the woman across the street if she knew him. She hesitated, glanced toward his house, and said, "He's very observant." That was all she offered. The second package arrived the following week. This time, it was addressed to me. Inside was another photo, this one of my living room, taken through the front window at night. The lights were on. I was visible, blurry, but recognizable, sitting on the couch. On the back, written smaller this time, "You forgot to close the blinds." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I knocked on his door. He answered immediately, like he'd been waiting. I held the photo up and asked him calmly what this was. He frowned, genuinely confused. "Oh," he said, "that." He invited me inside without waiting for a response. His house was immaculate, sparse but clean. No personal photos, no clutter, everything placed with intention. "I'm documenting the neighborhood," he said. "Patterns, habits, changes." "For what?" I asked. He smiled, like that was the wrong question. "So people don't disappear without explanation," he said. I told him to stop taking photos of me. He looked surprised. "I thought you'd appreciate knowing what's visible," he said. "Most people don't." I left without arguing, because arguing felt like participating. That afternoon, I went to the HOA president's house. She didn't look surprised when I told her. She sighed, sat down, and said, "He used to do this at his last place too." "Why was he allowed to move here?" I asked. "Because he hasn't broken any laws," she said. "And because when we tried to stop him, he filed complaints." detailed ones. I asked what kind. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, "Did he show you the archive yet?" I didn't know what she meant, but the words stuck. That night, I noticed something new. A binder on my doorstep. No knock, no note. Inside were printed pages, dates, times, observations. My routines, my guests, my lights, my blinds. Nothing false, nothing exaggerated. Just my life, flattened into data. On the last page was a sentence. If this makes you uncomfortable, imagine how much you reveal without realizing it. I wanted to call the police. I really did. But what would I say? My neighbor is observant? My neighbor writes things down? So instead, I confronted him again. This time, I didn't raise my voice. I asked him why he was really doing this. He looked tired for the first time since I'd met him. Because no one notices until it's too late, he said. Because when something goes wrong, everyone says they didn't see anything. He told me about a burglary at his old place, how he'd warned people about unlocked doors, patterns, blind spots, how they'd brushed him off. Afterward, when things went missing, they asked him how he knew so much. They were angry, he said, at me, not at the situation. So you scare people instead? I asked. I inform them, he said. They choose how to feel. I didn't agree with him, but I couldn't entirely dismiss him either. The unsettling part wasn't that he was wrong, it was that he was precise. I changed my routines after that, closed my blinds, varied my schedule. The comments stopped, the photos stopped, but the awareness didn't. Every time I stepped outside, I wondered what was visible, what was being recorded. Other neighbors did the same. The neighborhood grew quieter, more contained. No one confronted him. No one befriended him. We just adjusted around him, like a permanent obstacle. Then, one morning, his house was empty. No warning, no goodbye. The HOA president sent an email saying he'd moved. People celebrated quietly. A week later, a package arrived. Inside was a flash drive. On it was a folder labeled with our street name. Inside that were subfolders, each labeled with a house number. Mine was there. Inside were photos I'd never seen before, angles I didn't know were possible, and one final document titled Notes. It read, "People prefer ignorance to awareness. They confuse discomfort with harm. This is why patterns repeat." At the bottom was a new address. Not his, mine. I don't know what he meant by that. I don't know if he was warning me or inviting me. I deleted the files, threw away the drive. But sometimes when I notice something out of place, a car lingering, a light left on, I wonder who else sees it and whether they're writing it down. Because the unsettling part isn't that he watched. It's that once he pointed out what was visible, I couldn't unsee it. And I still don't know if that makes him wrong.